Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mortgage Coaches Training Thursday. My name is Lori Lytle. I'll be hosting today's training. So what we're going to work on today is the rent versus own presentation. So this is a great presentation to be able to provide your borrowers, especially those first-time home buyers. They're used to paying rent, but they're not quite sure of that tax benefit for actually owning a home. So that's what this presentation is going to be showing us. I'll walk through it in detail, discussing the different graphs, the net monthly payment, as well as rent versus own. So we'll go ahead and build a rent versus own report. Then we'll go ahead and roll into the mobile device. And with that, we'll be able to show you how you can take a video, record it directly onto the mobile device. So with that, I also want to let you know if you could go ahead and open up your question area in GoToMeeting and just keep it wide open. And if you have any questions along the way, go ahead and post it in the question area, and I'll be able to address that as we go along. So that's how you can pose questions to us. And as we're going through, if there's any as you're working in Edge and you wanted to know how to do something or maybe do something quicker, or if there's a process, put that in the question area. And once we're done with the rent versus own report, I could go ahead and address those questions and maybe be able to make creating these presentations just a little bit smoother for you. So go ahead and place any kind of questions at all in that question area, and we'll be able to assist you. So now with the rent versus own report, so you can see it's laid out similar to the total cost analysis, but in this aspect we're capturing their rent information. So in this particular scenario, their total rent payment is $1,475, and there is a slight tax benefit when you rent, so that's how we show the benefit for that. But then you'll see we have our total payment. It's definitely higher than that rent, so that's where the borrower is going to have a little confusion. It is more money, but what they don't realize is the tax benefit each month that they're receiving. And not only the tax benefit, they're receiving wealth by part of that money going directly to principal. So those are the two items that usually first-time home buyers don't understand fully. So this is a great presentation to be able to present that to them and then follow up with a total cost analysis and really break that down. The rent versus own report is great also with working with a partner. So if they have an open house, besides an open house presentation, it's great to also provide this rent versus own presentation. So this way, again, for those new home buyers who are out at those open houses, they'll be able to understand a little bit more about rent versus owning. So with that, let's go ahead and go into Edge, and we'll be able to create this presentation. So if you've logged into Edge, and if you're new on the call, not quite sure of your login and password, go ahead and email us at support@mortgagecoach.com, and we'll be able to assist you with that process. So with that, what we want to do is to start a rent versus own report, we're going to go ahead and click on New Client. New Client presentations are always held in this upper area of our home screen. And you can also, besides the face of within the home screen, you can also access all your reports through the View All button. You can either search down the criteria to narrow that list, or if you leave it empty and you press search, you could go ahead and see all your presentations listed. You also have an additional filter, so if you want to narrow down the list within, you could go ahead and do so. So if I typed FHA, I can see all the presentations where either the title has FHA or my friendly name field has an FHA in it. The friendly name field, we'll talk about it in a little bit when we go into the data entry, but you can see how I have a description of FHA VA conventional. This is my friendly name field. So you can see how on my products I'm able to identify the different products just by that friendly name. On this FHA MI comparison, you just see that date and time. That's because a friendly name field was not used. We always put the stamp, date and time stamp on it the last time you've accessed the file. But for you to make it helpful in understanding which file is which, friendly name field will be your identifier. So now to start our presentation, let's go ahead and click on New Client, and you can see how it will start this process off. So you would just go ahead and put in the borrower's name. I'm just using my own name today, and I can't even spell it. There we go. And if you're working with a partner, you can always switch it to marketing and put a title headline. So with that, you just go ahead and build the report that way, and it's just removing the borrower and the co-borrower's name. So that's just the difference between individual and marketing. And then coming down, I want to put my friendly name field. So if you're doing this for a partner, you could put the street address so you know what presentation is going to what open house. Or in this case, I'm just going to do, we're going to build an FHA, a VA, and a conventional. And I'm also going to, when we're going through this, I'm going to show you how you could do the MCC credits. And with the MCC credit, we're going to take the conventional, and with that conventional product, I'm going to show you how you could do a copy of that product, as well as adding that MCC credit. So you can compare one conventional with and one without. So I'll just tack on MCC credit in my friendly name field. So this is my reference when I go and do my search and my filters. So moving on, I'm coming to my goals, and if you want to capture this information about your borrower, you could go ahead, but say we're working for a partner, I'm just moving on to the next screen. In the assumption screen, this is the information where you're going to gather for the renter. So what they currently, whoops, one thing I forgot to do because this is on the TCA information. Let's go back to the client's file, client screen, and the two items here, own versus rent. That actually toggles between the different presentation styles. So you can always create a rent versus own presentation, and then you could switch it quite easily and make it a TCA. So it's really quick to do that. If you're creating it for a partner, you would be able to create that presentation and say you have a borrower that wants to see more details. You can copy that marketing presentation, all your details about those products, and make it custom for the borrower. So just remember, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. We do have a copy feature that will copy that whole presentation if it's a marketing piece. So with that, now let's move on and let's go ahead and look at the assumptions. You see how that screen changed. This is the different screen that when you use the toggle and have it as rent, the screen changes slightly. So what we want to do is capture the rent information. So let's say that their current rent is around $1,400. Say the annual increase is 3%, you would just need to know your area. Just add what you anticipate what that increase could be year over year. Do they have renter's insurance? So I'm going to say they do, and it's $25. If they have any other monthly expenses, and with the rent insurance and the rent expense, what we're doing is capturing that monthly cost. Just as with a mortgage loan, you have that hazard insurance and taxes, we're capturing what they have as a renter. So standard deduction. Once you start doing these, you'll start recognizing the numbers going through. But the first time, let's go ahead and provide, let's show you how you can get that estimate. So I'm clicking on that button, find standard deduction, and you can see how it takes me to a new web page for the IRS. I'm going to press begin and just walk through the questions for a standard deduction. So I'm pressing continue, and I'm selecting last year's tax year. And now you would want to know if they're single, married, and again, it's just a different tax area. So I'm just going to go ahead and select married. And yes, we did file a joint tax return. And yes, it is a 12-month period. You'll see how it goes through, and it's just asking different items to be able to place in here. Oh, I'm not in the valid. Okay, let's just pick a date. I was trying to go fast. There we go. Yes, I provide my own support. And yes, for the spouse. And then my spouse's date. And I'm just putting information in. No, we're not blind. I know there's a couple, it will take you a while, but you'll see as you go through this that you're going to be able to find these numbers are pretty much the same if you have a married or a single. So in this particular case, my filing jointly, I'm going to put $12,400 in my standard deduction and place that in here. So with that, that's how you'll be able to find that information. And one of the questions that come through the support box, yes, this doesn't include all the medical, all the different items. This is just an estimate, and we're just taking the base so we'll be able to show the borrower what the advantages are owning a home. So you can get nitty-gritty in this area, but again, remember, this is just an estimate, just to be able to provide that borrower some information. As we continue on, you don't have to fill this information in, but for a rent versus own report, you do need to provide a tax bracket. So with that, you can either identify the tax bracket going through, but another item is, again, the button here, Find Tax Bracket. So if I click on Find Tax Bracket, this one is a lot simpler than the standard deduction, so let's go ahead and put married filing jointly. And say they were making $85,000, they're in that 25% category. So let's go back to Edge. Let's put in 25%. And if you want, I'll just go through, and I was putting in my basis of $85,000 is their gross income. They have $500 in monthly debt. When we come to products, I'll be able to show you how the debt to income ratio will go ahead and populate for you over here. Savings balance, it's good to be able to have this information, and again, this is not for a marketing piece, but if you're working with the renter, you could go ahead and put in how much money they have in the savings and just a base interest rate. When we get the analysis screen, when we go into the short-term savings, I'll be able to show you how this information would be able to tell you if they have enough cash to close. So that's one area that this would be able to help you. But again, you can also use that for that reinvestment strategy. So moving on, I'm going to go ahead and move through the next affordability screen and get to our products. So in this particular case, we're going to build out 4 products. We're going to start with an FHA. We'll do a VA, a conventional, and then with the conventional, we're going to do the copy, and we're going to show the conventional with the MCC credit. So let's go ahead and start out with the FHA product. I'm doing 3.5% down. And if you are on an enterprise account, you might have some product templates already built for you. So look in your drop-down to see if there's any type of a template. This is a lot of times what they might look like. So this is the one you would want to pick for 3.5% down. It's less than 625 and its LTV is greater than 95. I have the correct mortgage insurance in here, so that's why I want to be able to pull this. So if you don't have product templates, don't worry. I'll show you at the end of each product how to save that template. And you definitely want to build these templates because it will make you move through Edge a lot quicker. And to show you, let's go ahead and bring in my fee template that we have built. Let's put in that loan amount of $250,000. And so you can see with that template, my upfront premium went ahead and was selected. So if you're doing an FHA and don't have templates, go to the drop down and pick FHA. What this is going to be doing is being able to provide you the upfront premium in the closing costs screen. So I picked FHA. Now let's open it up, put 3.5% down, and my interest rate of 4%. So that's all the basics here. So look in the upper right-hand corner. So as we move, advance our screen, you'll see our graph starting to be built. So out of each product, as we advance that first screen, you'll see what that basic P&I payment is. We haven't included the mortgage insurance yet. Well, maybe I have. Let's take a peek. Ooh, I have. So 168 of that is mortgage insurance and the rest of the P&I. But you can see how you can start seeing the graphs and not have to wait to the presentation, but you can see it directly within Edge. I have, in my defaults, I have prepaid interest of 15 days. You could go ahead and place what your company quotes. I usually see 15 days in that field. And then in the upfront MIP, if you don't see this field, It's because you don't have that drop down selected as a FHA. So make sure you have that upfront MIP field, and then you just want to open up that percentage field and then place 1.75 for the upfront premium. I'm going to add this to the loan amount, so I mark the box below that, add to loan amount. If you don't see that box, it's just because you haven't put in that percentage yet. So as soon as you put that percentage and hit return, you're going to see that line. Points. Before we go into the closing cost details, let's go ahead and discuss points for a little bit. So with that field, you can always put in your points as a positive. If you hover your mouse over it, you can see how it displays that dollar amount. You can also show negative points. So if I go ahead and place in negative 0.25, say you have a rebate, you could go ahead and see how that negative number is. So want to point that out as in points. Letting you know we're working on a new field that will be for your deposits. So we're earnest money. So we are going to add a field. You'll probably be seeing that in the next week or two. So going into the closing cost details, if you're on an enterprise account, you might have some fee templates already built. If you do, go ahead and select from your templates. And also what we'll do is just go through a basic of creating a fee template, just showing you a couple items. But it's a great way if you have a fee template already in here and built, and we'll use it on a different product. I'll show you how. But you would select that even if they're slightly off, because then you can update it, make it exact for you and your branch. And you can save it always as a new template to pull from. So we'll be able to show you how to do that. So every time you come into Edge, you want to be able to create these templates, product templates or fee templates, so each time it's going to let you move faster in creating a presentation. So let's go ahead and start creating this particular product from scratch, and then when we do a VA, we'll pull from a template, and we'll show you how you can modify it. So with that, there's the two green buttons on the right-hand side. First, we're going to work with Add Fee. We have descriptions in this one, and if you don't see your description in Add Fee, then you can always create a custom fee. So I'll show you how you'll be able to do both of those. And then I want to point out this blue bar. You'll see that we bring over the prepaid interest in this field and the dollar amount. And then we also provide the total amount for the borrower, lender, seller paid fees in this area. You can see the borrower paid fees already has the starting amount of the prepaid interest there. And as we start adding fees, it will go ahead and increase that total. So I want to point that out, so when we work with contributions, you can see how the contributions will decrease that borrower amount. So now let's dive into adding a couple fees. So if I click on Add Fee, I'm going to do it a couple times just so I have some line items. And if I click on it, you'll see the drop down of all our fees. So with that, say I want to do an underwriting fee. And what I find out, if you're on an enterprise account, a lot of times you'll have these basic fees like an underwriting processing. That's very different from branch to branch. So that's why your template might not be the same. And these are the type of things you'll be able to modify and custom and make you be able to go through creating the presentation faster. So here's the underwriting fee. And let's say that amount is $675, maybe not $6,900. Okay, and let's mark that as an APR fee. So this is just how you do an APR fee. So quick way of doing a fee template is just to get a fee sheet from your LOS system and just have it set next to you and go through it and add those descriptions, dollar amounts, and then confirm if the fee is an APR and make sure you have that marked. So let's go and do a non-APR fee. So appraisal fee is a good non-APR. So I type the letter A and let's capture appraisal fee and let's put in that amount, and that's a non-APR, so I'm leaving that empty. So now we know how to do an APR and a non-APR fee. So let's discuss the other two boxes here. We have add to loan amount. So you have those items, and this, and we also have the box here to mark them all at once. And just this is more for refinances. You can add those fees to loan amount. So you'll be able to check them all and then unmark those that aren't going to be added. So I want to point that out. PPE, prepaid escrow. These are non-cost fees. So anything like hazard insurance, monthly costs, would need to be marked prepaid escrow. And when we do the monthly costs, I'll be able to show you a little bit more in detail. But anything that's marked a PPE will not be included in short-term savings or that 5-year cost. Because again, they're not a cost alone. They're just part of that payment and the cash to close. So now let's work on a custom fee. So let's click on custom fee. And this way you could put in any type of fee name. So now with the new loan estimate, what I've been seeing is title fees have to have the word title in front of it. So say you have a settlement fee, but now it's being listed as title settlement. This is how you can start customizing those labels within Edge to make it match what your loan estimate is displayed. And again, because it is on a alpha order per the CFPB, this will help you again by having them correct. They'll be alphabetized on the presentation and make it easier for the borrower to identify those fees. So let's go ahead and put in we'll just use that as my example, title, settlement. Okay, and then with that, I can go ahead and mark it as an APR item. If you're working, say, with stamp taxes and items like that, what you can do is also mark them as prepaid, defaulted as a prepaid item. But if you're using the percentage, a lot of times when I'm working with the East Coast and wanting to put an estimate on of a percentage of a fee, usually the title fees, stamp taxes, you can have it go off the property value, sales amount, or the loan amount. So you have the choice when you're using that percentage key, what do you want that percentage to calculate from? So just remember that's always in the custom field here. And then I'm going to press OK. Just a moment, I have a couple questions here. Hey Taffy, it's nice seeing you on the call. And let me open this question area. On the physical, what Taffy's asking is if the reinvestment information can show on the rent versus own on the printed copy, I believe is what you're asking. And currently we don't have that information on there, but when we get to the presentation, let's go ahead and dive into it and look at that print copy, and we'll talk about that when we get there. And even though you can provide that print copy, and you hear this us saying it all the time, but the mobile is the way to go. But we'll talk about that when we get to the presentation. So great question, though. Okay, settlement fee. Let's go ahead and put in $6.95 here, and then we also have it as an APR fee. So now you'll notice in that blue area our fees are increasing as we've been adding them. So if you ever have a fee, say we have owner's title, and that's under got to clean up my fees, don't I? Let's go ahead. Well, if you have a seller fee, you could go ahead and just do place it in here. I don't want to use contribution. I've been seeing tax fee lately as if you're doing an FHA or VA. So if I had a tax fee, the seller would pick it up. You can see how you have the dollar amount for the borrower, and as soon as you switch it to seller, it will reduce the borrower's costs, and then we'll show that dollar amount over in the seller paid fees. So I wanted to be able to show you how that process worked. Now let's go ahead and talk about contributions. So with contributions, let's go ahead, and there's a couple ways of doing it. I'm adding a fee, and in our drop-down list, you'll see a fee called contribution right here. With that fee, we have logic built into it. So you can enter the dollar amount as a positive, and then you can identify who it's being paid by. So before I place a dollar amount in here, you can see how the total borrower paid fees is $22.48, and let's put in $500 as our contribution. You'll see how it reduces that amount for the borrower, And because I have it marked lender, the lender's now picking up $500. I can also identify if the seller's paying the fee, and it will move that amount over to the seller column. So that's one way of being able to identify a contribution. And sometimes people want to be able to put in their own description. So with that description, you could go ahead and add a custom fee. And I've seen, maybe they want to put in lender credit instead of the word contribution. You could go ahead and do that, press OK. But you'll have to place that amount as a negative, because a negative, there's no logic behind your custom description. So this way you have to offset the borrower's fees with a negative. So to do that, let's go ahead and put in $200. I'm putting a negative. You'll see how that dollar amount will be reduced by that. You'll still have to keep it paid by borrower, and the reason for that, it needs to offset the borrower costs. And that's only when you want to show a custom fee. So you can always use contribution. It could be a positive number, and you identify who it's being paid by. So if you have any questions on contributions, go ahead and put it in the question area, or fees in general, just go ahead and put them in there. The next three products we're going to do, we're going to use this template to build from. So let's go ahead and put Save as Template. And I'm going to go ahead and say FHA fees. And then I'm going to place in today's date so I know that it was created today. If you originate in multiple states and want to identify fee templates based on state, identify it here, and then it will have that test, and only those states can have that template. So let's go ahead and press OK, and my fee template has just been saved, and it's in my drop-down. So now let's go ahead and press Save and Apply to Loan, and let's advance the screen to our monthly costs. So with our monthly costs, we have our mortgage insurance already defaulted if you use a template. If not, and it's empty, what you would need to do is place in 0.85 as your MI factor. This is for 3.5% down loans. You want to make sure you calc MI on balance to get that declining balance for mortgage insurance. And you also want to carry MI for the life of the loan. So minimum MI months, place 360. So this is the information. I do have 78 in here. It's never going to see it because of the 360, but if you want to remove it just to keep it clean, that's fine. Keep it there. It doesn't matter. So now let's go ahead and talk about monthly costs. You could put it as a percentage or a dollar amount. So I'm going to go ahead and place it as a percentage here. And then once you have placed in your monthly costs, you can place in the reserve number of months as well. So down at the base of the screen, I have hazard reserves. I'm going to place 2 months and 4 months for taxes, and I'll collect 12 months premium. To show you how these fees work with the closing cost details, let's go back a screen, open the closing cost details, and you can see at the base my reserves. They're grayed out because I have to make any of these changes in my monthly cost screen, and you'll see how they all are marked prepaid escrow. So these are not costs to the loan, so we're going to exclude them from the 5-year cost and the short-term area. So as we advance the screen, let's go ahead and add another product, and this process is now going to start picking up. We're going to use the copy feature, and we'll be able to not have to create each presentation from scratch. First off, make sure you save it as a template. I'll go ahead and indicate my template. Again, you don't have to put a date. It's to be able to show what template, make sure I pull the correct one. And then I'm pressing OK. So that's as simple. You created a fee template as well as an FHA template. So now let's add another product, and let's do a VA, 0 down. Again, if you were working, you could go ahead and pick your VA product template. If you have it from scratch, you could go ahead and make sure you pick Upfront Premium VA. But what I'm going to do is copy from my FHA product. So in that Copy From button, you can see all the different products. And I'm going to choose my FHA and press OK. And you can see how it populated all that data down from that FHA product. So now let's clean it up. I'm going to select VA for my upfront premium. I'm putting 0 down. And if your interest rate changed, you would update your interest rate. Now, as you advance the screen, you'll notice the graphs are being built on the upper right-hand corner. You can now see that VA product. Let's change the funding fee amount to reflect 2.15. And you can see how the calculation changed. And I'm adding that funding fee to the loan amount as well. You'll see that all your fees carried over. So if they're the same, you can move on. But if you have different fees from your FHA, you want to go to your closing cost details and pull down that VA template. If you don't have a VA template, this is how you could start creating templates as you go and just building your own. So say on the VA product, I don't have a tax service fee, and maybe I have a pest inspection. So you can see how I remove the tax fee by pressing the trash can. And add fee, I'm going to go ahead and find my pest inspection right there. So once you do that and put in the amount, and if it's an APR or not, now you've changed it to make that as a VA template. You would just then go in and save your template. So you can see how pulling down a previous template, how it's just easy to update and modify as you go. Press OK. And apply to the loan. Anytime you make any changes in here, you always want to apply to loan, so then the lump sum cost for the APR and non-APRs will go ahead and update. So let's move along. You can see we have our monthly costs. Let's remove that mortgage insurance since it's not on an FHA product. And we just cleaned it up, and now it's a VA. So you can see how using that copy from, how we move so much faster in creating that presentation. So now let's create our conventional product. You can see how I hover my mouse over product, and you can see my 2 jump outs of my 2 products. So let's add our third product of a conventional, conventional, 5% down. I'm going to use my copy from button and use the VA product. Press OK. Go into my upfront premium and select none. Change my interest rate. Let's change our down payment to reflect 5. And you can see how you just made those 2 quick changes. Advance the screen. We'll see our third graph in the upper right-hand corner. Closing cost details. You'd want to pick your conventional fee template. And then it would carry over. That's how you would just easily update your fee template. So say this was already ready. I know this is exactly what I want. I apply it to the loan, and I go to my monthly cost. So let's go ahead and open up the PMI, put in our factor of 0.69, keep the 78% MI cutoff, so the MI on conventional will cut off at the 78% LTV, and you're set. So we have all our 3 products. The one last product I want to show you is the conventional with MCC credit. So let's add another product, conventional, 5% down with MCC. So this is going to be a really quick one. All we have to do is copy from our conventional product, press OK, and then, oh, I found out what I did. You'll notice at the very base, I don't have MCC credit listed here. So let me go back really quick, and let's go to our can't afford screen, so affordability. When we went to the tax bracket to find our tax bracket percentage, there's also a tax credit button. So with an annual tax credit, let's go ahead and put 20% and $2,000 in this area. And if you're doing MCC credits, these numbers change depending on state and the product, so make sure when you're doing them that you're putting in that correct information. So once I have data in this area, let's go back to our conventional product with MCC. Once you've filled out that MCC data, you'll see that at the very base of every product screen, you'll have Apply MCC Credit. Once I mark that, that MCC credit will go ahead and applied to that presentation. I have a question. Just one moment. So Taffy's asking the most efficient way to completely change out a product, remove one and add another. So the best way to do it, it's depending on the type of product and really what you're doing. If you have your templates built, it's always easy just to override it. But a lot of times it's just coming in and making the slight adjustments. So, you know, if I was doing, let's see, yeah. The only thing, if you were going to do it and completely change it out, it's just coming in. You would have to change that title depending on what product you're changing. But a lot of times, if it's going from product to product, it's usually the rate and just something slightly different. So, not quite sure if that answered your question, Taffy, but if not, drill me some more and we can get you that answer. So with that MCC credit, we have that here, and then I'm applying that credit by marking that box. If we go to the conventional 5% down, the exact same product, you'll see I have that empty. So that's the difference, and that will show the difference between those two products. So once we fill out that first screen, the fees are going to be the same and my monthly costs are going to be the same. So there's nothing for me to do with that product except copy and mark it MCC. So now as we move on, we have our rent analysis summary. We have where you have your property appreciation rate, short-term analysis months, and long-term years. So you'll be able to modify those if you want to show a longer period of time. If you're doing ARM loans, you definitely want to be able to go ahead and show that term after the rate has changed. Oh, okay, changing the order of the products. Okay, let's finish the presentation and then I'll tag back up that question afterwards. There's no easy way to do it, Taffy. So I'll show you in a few moments how I do that when I'm changing the order. And this, and also the way that it is just building a template. And this is how I work it when I create products in a rent versus own TCA, and I want to move it to an open house presentation. So it's the same type of thing. Okay, we'll discuss the monthly payments when we get to the presentation. You can always show the total principal paid versus total net worth. Total net worth is usually used on a TCA, but then you can also show total interest and MI paid, because a lot of times first home buyers, this is a good item to show because this is what they understand. So with that, let's go ahead and move on to our property information. You can go ahead and fill this information out on the contact. Privacy, if you want to leave the street address empty, that's fine. Just you could put in the city and state. That would look good. If it's for a specific partner for a particular open house, definitely put that street address on there for them. Compliance notes, payment notes, just make sure you put something about your estimated hazard and taxes are included in your payment. This is how you remove a product. If I don't want to show that MCC tax credit, I can leave it unmarked and only those 3 products will show, and then you can have the 4th product. So you can always build these 3, leave this one off, and as you talk in the bar, you can always add that as you're having that, holding that conversation. I'm doing the rent versus own report, and I could click through and get to the very end, or you can always hover your mouse and go to preview. If you email us at support, a lot of times we'll say hover our mouse over presentation and click preview, or we'll say select report, because a lot of times in select report we're asking you to do items in this area. So now once we're at the presentation, you want to go ahead and provide the quote date, and then you want to email the link. If you do print or save a PDF, always do it through the link. The link, you want to be able to provide that borrower. You can always change the data. It will change through the link. So if you're providing hard copies, if you make any changes, you're going to have to reprint. So it's always nice to be able to use that link for those kind of updates. So let's check out our preview. And with this, we'll be able to do any kind of highlights. And then what we'll do is bring up that mobile phone and be able to show you how the presentation is there. So we have our rent versus own report. We're reflecting our rent and how much the total amount was $1,400 plus that $25 monthly cost. But now it's going to increase with that mortgage payment as well as the MI and taxes and hazard. Yes, it will increase, but remember, they're going to be getting a tax benefit. So they have that tax benefit, and then look at how much it is with that MCC tax credit. This is a great way to be able to show it side by side, the advantage of that credit. Okay, so what that will be with changing, it's not so much the link info, but it's Edge Live Taffy, and I'll show you that in a moment, and we can show you how it's easier to make the changes here and avoid that print aspect. Also, what they're not building with renting is principal. They're not building equity. So with that, you have the principal paid. You're showing how there's nothing going toward it with rent, but you can show them how much of their monthly payment is going toward principal. So they're building that net worth. They're building that equity within the house through paying down their principal. And I did, when I was going through my emails today, whoops, it's way down here, I ran across a news link, you might have seen it already, and why renters carry debt each month. You know, they're not saving for that down payment, and it's not a priority. But this is one of the options here. When you read articles like this is how a rent versus own would be able to help them understand not so much as that down payment, you know, you do have to save, but it is that benefit you're getting from owning a home. So with that, let me go ahead and clear my highlight. So if anyone is not sure how to highlight, all you do is you hover your mouse over the field. You'll see how it's the cell is outlined, and you left click. That highlights, do it again, and it removes the highlights. If I go to the very top of the column and click on the title, it will highlight the whole column. And a way to quickly clear out all the highlights is just pressing that clear all button in the bottom center. So you can see how it clears out that highlight. So now let's talk about the net monthly payment. So you can see our payment amounts. So with the TCA, we compare the differences on the total payment. On the rent versus own, what we're doing is we're providing their net monthly payment. So to show them once they have their payment, they reduce the tax benefit, and to show them how much is going toward principal, really the cost of that payment is much less than their cost of that rent. So that's what you're comparing here. So with the tax deduction of rent, they're actually paying $1,167. But with that with that mortgage payment, once you have that tax benefit and that principal you're building, you could see how that cost is much less. And that's what the graphs next to it are really pointing out. So this is the cost of those mortgages monthly and the cost of the rent. Then you have the rent versus principal paid. So you can see in the 5-year period how much principal that they've been paying down. So again, it may not be in a savings way. John, the tax benefit, we do have a calculation that we have that it's broken down. The best way, if you can go ahead and email us at support, we could give you that calculation, and so you'll be able to see how it's worked out. So just support at mortgagecoach.com, and we'll be able to provide you that calculation. It's quite simple, and be able to get that. And then you also have the rent versus interest paid. So you can see how much rent it is, and you can see how much interest and MI that they paid for that period of time. So now let's go in and just show you how Edge Live works real quick. I'm going to bring up my mobile. I'm going to show you how you can make changes. I'm going to go ahead and, for the time being, everyone, I am going to minimize my GoToMeeting. So if you have a question, just go ahead and put it in the question area. And I'm going to go ahead and show both my screens. Okay, and with that, what I'm going to do is on our presentation, you'll see in the lower right-hand corner, the share button. That's a quick way of getting a link. So I'm going to copy that link. This is the link that you would put in your email for the borrower click on. I paste it in my web page, and you can see when it returns, I have a borrower's presentation. So let's put that on the other side of the screen. Let's go ahead and bring over my mobile, and let's put in that link as well. So this way it'll be easy for you to see. So I'm on my mobile device, and for all those, if you haven't downloaded the app, go to your app store and just search for Mortgage Coach. Not only will you have the Mortgage Coach app that we're using, you'll also have the RateWatch app. So both come with your membership. And usually what's the easiest way to this is they receive an email. They click on the email. They don't have to type anything in. But I want to go ahead and show you. So it's BO8DI and press done. And then we'll go ahead and bring up my there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and on the right hand side of my screen is the borrower's copy. And on the left hand side is the loan officer's copy. The one thing you'll notice is with that, let's go ahead and click I understand on our presentation so we could see our report. The one thing you'll see on the desktop is on the borrower's presentation, there's no clear all button as I have it on the left hand side in the bottom center. With that, the borrower cannot click, so on the right hand side, they're unable to do any kind of highlighting on their copy. Where on yours with that clear all button, the preview, you could do a highlight. You could see how I'm highlighting the VA loan amount and interest rate, and it went ahead and highlighted it on my presentation as well and on the mobile device. So this is how you can drive your presentation. Let's go ahead and clear out all the highlights, and you'll be able to discuss with your partner or with the borrower the difference in the payment versus renting and holding that conversation. You could go ahead and click into the more info button, and you could discuss that payment breakdown. So you can see on the mobile device at the very base here the different tabs that you have in that more info button. So you have that information, and everything I'm doing as I'm highlighting on the left hand side of my screen, you can see how it's driving the presentation both on the desktop as well as on the mobile device. So you can see how it will go ahead and do that, and you can just click on the closing costs as well, and it will go ahead and change, see how it moved to closing costs for the borrower. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and set some things down. So now if you're talking to the borrower, maybe you don't want to show this MCC product. So when you're in Edge, let's go back to my login. Anything, this is what we talk about Edge Live, how dynamic it is. So if I go into Select Report, I'm going to remove that product with the MCC credit, advance my screen, and then you'll see how on all the presentations, that product has now been removed. So all we're going to be showing is the rent, FHA, VA, and conventional product. And let's go in, and I'll show you on the mobile device. It hasn't updated, but the mobile device will also have that update. And that's also a way you can have those three products, and then when you discuss the MCC credit, you can always add it back into the presentation and then hold the discussion. So you can either provide them with a couple loan options and add as you hold that discussion, and just like I did, see how now it's on the screen for the borrower, and it will go ahead and get on your screen for you as well as the mobile. So not only with that, let's go ahead and let's do some changes. So say maybe they wanted to see a different down payment. Again, with Edge, you could do that with the TCA as well as the rent versus own, even the open house flyer. So say I wanted to do 10% down on my conventional instead of 5. So I want to change my title, and I'm changing my down payment. To trigger the report to update, if I advance my screen, that's what triggers the save. So anytime you move around from screen to screen, either through the jump outs, going this way or through left or right, that's when the save has been changed. So with that, let's go ahead and go back. Let's go to our presentation. You can see that it has, let's go ahead and clear out those highlights. Everything's freezing on me real quick. So you can see how it made that update. So not only did the 10% title change, it also changed the different loan amounts. If you go into the more info button under closing costs, you see how the down payment has changed, that loan to value ratio. So you can see that information. So that's how you work with Edge Live, and you'll be able to go between screen to screen, making those changes for your borrower, be able to show them the updates live. You don't have to wait to print it off, and that's one of the reasons why we suggest always provide the link, because the link is interactive. But if you print, let's go ahead and check this out, Taffy. Let's see what that print's doing. So with that, let's bring it up. So we have the information about the net payments and net worth. We have more of the payment breakdown and the closing costs. And then we have all our information here. So let's see. We have, nope, that's the long term. No, we don't have that information on here, Taffy, for the reinvestment. But if I recall, the reason for it, it is a rent versus own, and it's a lot for that reinvestment information on a rent versus own report. But it's not that, it's very easy to change this rent versus own to the total cost by just going into the client's screen, changing it to own. Now let's go to presentation, click on preview, let's put on a quote date, and let's preview the report. So that's how simple it is by adding, changing it from, whoops, one other thing, I want to remove that current mortgage. And to do that, when you see these products and you see that current mortgage column, the reason for that is I didn't mark it as a purchase in my goals. So if I mark it as a purchase, advance the screen, it will now remove that current mortgage from the product. So you'll have that. Let's go ahead, and while that's being updated, let's go ahead and copy that link and bring it to the other side. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my reflector right now for my mobile device. Okay. So with that, let's go ahead and click I understand. So now you have a total cost analysis here. So that's how quick it is to develop 2 presentations with 1 file. And then with that, you would be able to use that more of the reinvestment strategy information to be able to provide how they can reduce that, pay off the loan quicker and pay down that principal. So you'd be able to show them as that. When I discussed earlier about the savings balance, this is where the savings balance information displays. And then you also have, once the cash to close has been removed, you have their starting balance. So this is how you can see if they have enough cash for cash to close. So you can see on my conventional product there, I just added random fees, and you can see how the cash to close is $29. They don't have enough in their account to be able to pay those closing costs. So let me go ahead and bring back up my GoToMeeting, and let's see if we have any questions. Okay, just one moment. Okay, David, I'm not quite sure. Do you have 2 links to cell phone? If you can elaborate a little bit more on that, so I'd be able to assist you on that. I'm not quite sure on that question. Now let's go to the mobile device. So with the mobile device, let's go ahead, and I'm on an Android, and I'm clicking on my back button right here to go back out to the home screen. So with that, you'll be able to see your history of reports. So if you click on history, you can see all the different presentations that you viewed. And then with that, here's my alert. Just want to point that. Anytime your presentation has been open, as soon as it's been closed, you'll get an alert telling you how long it's been open, the contact information of the borrower, and this is the time to reach out to the borrower and answer any questions. So you'll always get the email alert. It's always triggered when they click. Once you receive this leave page, that's the trigger for the email alert. So now with the mobile, let's go into the share and put in the question area. Whoops, excuse me. Bye, Taffy. It was nice seeing you on the call. So with that, what we're going to do is go into the silhouette in the upper right-hand or left-hand corner. And with that, this is where you log into your Mortgage Coach account. So what I'm going to do is log into the compliance account real quick so we can be in sync with the same files we worked in. Okay, just one moment. Okay, so, and then we'll sign in. Just one moment. I should have gone under. There we go. Okay, I logged in. Forgot my @ sign, everybody. So once you log into your app, you could go ahead and just leave it open. You don't need to really log out. So you can see I've had 2 views today. Number of reports I worked on were 2. I could go into my client's information, my partner information, or my performance. So with the performance, it just shows you the number of report views you have, lifetime clients, total clients. So it'll be able to provide you that information on your client as well as your partner. So you have either or, be able to find those details. Going back out by pressing the arrow toward the back, let's go ahead and go, before we go into clients here, let's look at the silhouette up in the upper right hand corner. This is where you go ahead and turn on your album. If you have pre-recorded messages, which is really good to use after you have that commitment. You know, always want to make it personal, make it to the borrower, but a lot of times you want to re-record the message, be able to provide a message of the next steps. With that, if you have that pre-recorded, you could just use your album to upload the video to Mortgage Coach, to your presentation. So I want to point that out if you want to do that. It's just in that silhouette in the upper right-hand corner once you've logged into your mobile device. Now let's go into clients. And with clients, you could see that you have the presentations that you've last accessed right here on the face. If you wanted to search, you could go ahead and click on that search and you'll be able to find your presentation that way. We're going to go ahead and go into let's go to rent versus own. It's probably my second one. Okay, so let's go into, oops, so either way, I'm going to my total cost opposed to rent versus own. Actually, let's go back. So you can see how I have the total cost as well as the rent versus own. So if you've generated both links for the total cost as well as the rent versus own, you could go ahead and you'll see it displayed right there. So once I have clicked on rent versus own, I want to record a video. So with that, you go ahead and click on video. And what it will do, hi everyone, it will go ahead and put in your camera and you can record your message. You also have in that upper right hand corner, you could turn the screen around. And with that, you can then, you can see my screen here, you could go ahead and record when you're walking around. So if you type in selfie on your app, you'd be able to see how someone has taken a tour for the rent versus own and have provided that as a video for an open house. So they did a rent versus own and recorded a video that way. So I'll put that in the chat area for you to be able to view. But that's how you go ahead and you just record a video, and it's really quick. And this is a great way to re-record a video. Possibly if you have any changes, it's a great way, instead of having to write that email, just shoot a quick video, record it, and send it to them that way. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and come back out. And we're wrapping up at the top of the hour. Is there any additional questions or anything that you would want to see through Mortgage Coach? I'll be able to show that to you. And let's go ahead and show you the selfie while we're closing out. Just go ahead and put it in the question. Okay, Dave is asking, that's a great question. And it's really what it is. Let's go to Edge. He's asking a question on when you change it, and it's changing from a rent versus own to a total cost analysis, what happens to link. So every time in my client's file, I have a unique link for the TCA, and there's a unique link for the rent. They'll always represent that particular file. They never change. So once you've sent either the rent versus own link or the TCA link or both links, if you update your presentations at all, those links will be updated. And then if you create an open house presentation again, and that's in the lower area, you would have a third link, and that third link would be assigned to the open house. So, so every presentation, David, has its own unique link. So I hope that explained what your question was. And again, that link, when you send it in the email to the borrowers, they'll never have to get it sent again, because the link is unique. You can update that link with any kind of data changes, and they'll never have to be sent a new one. So, it saves time and everything, just being able to have that and be able to make those kind of updates. If that didn't answer your question, David, please put it back in the question area, and I can explain it out further. Is there any other questions before we wrap the call? Okay, so let me go ahead and just show you real quick. On the selfie, and let me go ahead and get that in the link in the chat area for you. So if you want to take a look at this one, I do have it in the chat area that you'll be able to see. And there we go. So you can see once a video is recorded, so the borrower would get the option to view now or later. So if I said yes, this is the presentation that is on. And if I go to this report, so you can see how you could go ahead and just add any type of video to a presentation. So it could be a marketing, whatnot, reaching out. So I'll be able to show it here. And we'll go ahead and wrap up the call. Any other? Okay, the one thing, we are wrapping up. Next week is Thanksgiving week. We will not have our training Thursday, but the following week after that, we will be focusing on a presentation for showing different MI options. But when we do this, we're actually going to be really focusing on the tip percentage and the 5-year cost. So make sure you attend. That will be the first Thursday in December. Have a great weekend, everyone. And if you have any questions, just email us at support, and we'll be able to assist you. I will stay on the line for a few minutes. If you have any questions, I will go ahead and answer them then. Thank you, everyone, again for joining us, and let us know how we can help you with your Mortgage Coach Edge presentation. Thank you. Okay, everyone, there's no call, any questions, so we'll go ahead and wrap the call. Thanks again. We'll talk to you in a couple weeks.